Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. So I do apologize for this video coming out very late. I was busy all day, so this is coming out around 10 p.m. by the time it does upload, probably after that, considering that I have to go through the primaries last night, which were also very, very interesting to say the least. My predictions weren't 100%, but they were correct in all but one race, so I'm pretty satisfied with those numbers there. But right now we're going to look at the 2018 not the gubernatorial elections. Wow, we're looking at the Senate elections. We'll look at the governor elections in another video. Looking at the Senate elections right now in terms of primary turnout in each state. So actually very few states have not held primaries. And the reason why I'm doing this is because two very important states to both the United States Senate and the gubernatorial elections, Florida and Arizona, more attention towards Florida. Right now, we're going to look at the primary turnout and see what it means in terms of just how voters would vote if it was just primary turnout on its own. So, of course, more Democratic voters would land in the Democratic column. More Republican voters, the state lands in the Republican column. We will be doing this by a shaded region, and some of my numbers may be off because some of them, when I saw like 100,000 vote difference in a state that only had 300,000 votes in total, I landed those states sometimes in the safe column for either political party. So for right now, if my math is a little bit off, just keep in mind that the distinctions in terms of who would win each state is still correct. So when it comes down to the end and when we look at this map right here, it will still be correct based off solid blue and solid red. So of course we start off with 49 Democrats and 51 Republicans, but on this map, of course, with 42 Republicans and 23 Democrats. So we'll start off with the safe Republican states. Actually, we won't because there are some interesting figures on there. We'll start off with the safe Democratic states with states you might expect. So for right now, starting off in my home state of Maryland, that is a safe Democratic state for pretty obvious reasons. Let's go ahead. That's not Connecticut, but we'll go over to it in a second. That is the state of Connecticut. Connecticut goes into the safe Democratic column. We're actually going to characterize Rhode Island for right now because I don't have the toss-up tool on me. Rhode Island right now is in the tilt column for the Democrats only because there is no primary data from there. So for right now, Delaware goes into the tilt Democratic column. Pretty much if there's no primary data, I will put it as the pro characterization in that race or whichever candidate is currently leading in the polls. Then I'll put it in the tilt column for either the GOP or the Democrats because we do not have data from there, and I'm not going to say it's safe, likely, or leaning just based off my own characterization. So for right now, it goes into the tilt column. So we can go over to New Jersey, another state that is now in the safe column for the Democrats, and of course the state of New York, pretty Democratic of a state. We're seeing the same Democratic states as usual. Vermont and Maine both go into the independent Democratic column, and then Minnesota and the Minnesota special election, because I count one state altogether, Minnesota goes into the safe GOP column, which is pretty interesting considering there is a contested governor race there. Washington, as expected, along with New Mexico, two Democratic states from 2016, and of course one of the most Democratic states, Hawaii, the only place where the primary truly counts in the state of Hawaii, goes to the Democrats because that is the hardest hurdle for the Democrats, not the general election. That is the primary in Hawaii, and it's pretty much been the same 7 elected officials throughout a very long time in Hawaii. But right now we have 35 Democrats, 42 Republicans. Let's move on down to the likely Democratic column because the safe Republican column is pretty interesting to say the least. There's only 2 states in this column for the likely Democrats, Wisconsin and surprisingly West Virginia. There's my AP Gov summer work, if you want to see that. Let's go ahead and switch back to what we were looking at before. Pretty cool. But yeah, pretty much the likely Democratic column. We have I do not feel like editing that out. I mean, it's too late for me to re-render and cut it out. So, I mean, I hope you find interest in AP government. I mean, you're on a politics channel, so I'm assuming you would. But pretty much we're looking at this. We have 37 Democrats, 42 Republicans, Wisconsin and West Virginia. West Virginia is pretty interesting, but not unexpected. West Virginia has a lot of Democrats. I personally would say that West Virginia could vote Democratic based off party registration. I mean, that's what the numbers say from the 2010 census. But for right now, West Virginia surprisingly going to the Democrats, but not too shocking. Over in the leaning Democratic column, again, another 2 states, but there is a state in the tilt Democratic column we will get to. So a total of 3 states we're about to characterize. Pennsylvania, right now going into the leaning Democratic column, which is pretty surprising. And then we're going to go into the no primary column because actually we'll go to the safe, likely, and leaning column for the GOP after that, and then go into the no primaries, which probably would help the Democrats. Pennsylvania goes in the lean Democratic column based off turnout, along with Michigan. And take your eyes and look at the Rust Belt. I mean, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, 3 states that Donald Trump carried in 2016, now going into the Democratic column based off turnout. So that's very interesting. But Nevada actually goes into the tilt Democratic column. And let me tell you how close this was. It was decided the Democrats had 143,000 votes in their primary. The Republicans had 142,000. So a difference of 1,000 votes, putting Nevada in the tilt Democratic column. As for the safe Republican states, actually, let's start off with the leaning Republican states, Florida and Missouri. Missouri, a little bit more interesting than Florida. Florida is typically a Republican state in terms of primary turnout. I guess they just have more Republican voters or more voters that are active in terms of primary turnout. Whereas Missouri was very interesting considering how solid of a GOP state it was in 2016 compared to Florida. Yet, pretty much Missouri actually has a considerable amount of Democrats coming out. Same thing for the GOP, considering there was a GOP Senate primary that was perceived to be contested and a not so much contested Democratic primary. I mean, Claire McCaskill is the incumbent. Don't expect her to lose there. But overall, Missouri right now going to the Republicans narrowly along with the state of Florida, but Florida is typically expected, and so is Missouri. So no big surprises there. In the likely Republican column, actually Ohio and Arizona in terms of the Senate races. Arizona surprised me considering it wasn't closer than Florida, but oh well, I guess Arizona goes into the GOP column. Ohio also surprised me as well because I didn't expect it to be such going into the likely type margin. I thought it would just be a leaning margin, but I guess both of these states are pretty good for the GOP in terms of turnout in the early primaries. And now we have a long list for the solid GOP states. So we'll start off with Texas, which isn't too surprising considering how Republican of the state it is. In I guess stereotypically because it's not actually too Republican at this point in time. Nebraska, another state. I mean, a lot of people expect Wyoming to be solidly Democratic, so it goes to the GOP as expected. No, I didn't mess up when I said that. Going down to Mississippi, the two Senate elections there right now going to the GOP. I mean, Mississippi obviously having more Republicans come out, even though Mississippi used to be a Democratic state, if you know U.S. election history. So Mississippi now going to the GOP. I'm pretty much expected as well. Over in Tennessee, that's another state in the safe GOP column. And here's a big one. So right now, if we look in the safe GOP column, we also have North Dakota, Montana, and Indiana. So that puts the Republicans at 55 seats. Keep in mind they only have 51 at this point in time. So they have expanded their majority by 4 seats by gaining back the states of Indiana, North Dakota, Montana, and Florida. And the Democrats and Missouri and the Democrats captured Nevada, which is a net gain of 4%. But still, the fact that Montana, North Dakota, Indiana, Tennessee, Missouri, Arizona, Florida, Ohio are all in the GOP column definitely does not help the Democrats whatsoever. Now we can go ahead and take a look. So we're done with the safe GOP column. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the primary, the no primary data. Actually, there was primary data from California, but there's 2 Democrats on the ballot, so it really doesn't matter. But over in Virginia, obviously that state is likely to go to the Democrats, but for right now, with pretty much they don't publish data. I mean, even the Secretary of State does not publish data when there's an uncontested race, which pretty much annoys me because still I would like to know the vote count. And since they don't have a governor election, I was not going to add up all of the districts in terms of turnout, and also not everyone votes in the House races in their House races when they vote in the Senate election. So for right now, Virginia is still in the tilt column. Over in Massachusetts, no data just yet because they haven't fully had their primary. Over in Delaware, another state with no primary data there, and then Utah going to the tilt GOP column because again, there was no data for the Democrats, but there was data for the GOP. So still Utah going to the GOP column. We finish off this map with 56 Republicans and 44 Democrats. Very, very good map for the GOP. If you look at this, Ohio, Indiana, North Dakota, Montana, Missouri, Florida, not Arizona, sorry, states that previously had Democratic incumbents. I mean, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Those do have Democratic incumbents in that state, but the rest of them pretty much, compared to this, I mean, it's a sea of red with very little spots of blue. I mean, Colorado, New Mexico, Nevada, Alabama, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, I mean the Rust Belt, but still comparing this map, a lot more red on that map than before. So thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I will see you all tomorrow.